If you're interested in supporting the channel, there are two things you can do. Flipside Gaming is offering a 10% discount for any order $10 or more if you use the promo code VOIDMAGE on their website. That is VOIDMAGE in all caps. I will also have an affiliate link to tcgplayer.com. If you use that link, any purchase you make on that website will go towards supporting the channel. I appreciate the support. Also hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Commander Deck Tech video. We are now entering Throne of Eldrane. It's only appropriate that we start looking at those legendary creatures. And we got a pretty good one here. Korvold, Fae-Cursed King. 5 mana in Jund for a 4/4 legendary dragon noble with flying. Whenever Korvold, Fae-Cursed King enters the battlefield or attacks, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a +1/+1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. This is pretty spicy. One of my favorite commander options. If you're a longtime viewer, you already know it's Prosh Skyrider of Care. Another dragon in Jund is only appropriate, and yet again we see another awesome value engine. I love sacrificing and I love things that synergize with sacrificing, and something like Mazarek, Crow Death Priest is something I immediately think of whenever I see Golgari colors and sacrificing, because whenever a player sacrifices another permanent, you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So combined with Korvold, you could potentially just load up your commander with a bunch of +1/+1 counters and deal commander damage pretty easily, because if you're playing things like Dictative Erebos, it's going to be quite easy to clear your opponent's board. So the idea here is that we want to load up our board with permanents to sacrifice. Low risk sacrificing is ideal, so we can get as much advantage as possible. Drawing cards is a huge bonus here. If you didn't draw a card, it probably wouldn't be that good. So let's start it off here with the lands. It's going to be your typical mana fixing. You want some good shock lands, a command tower, but fetch lands are going to be ideal for this deck. My build isn't going to be super competitive because there are some pretty competitive decks built around Korvold already. I like going with Bloodstained Mire and Wooded Foothills, just good fetch lands that are going to get us shock lands, help us out with our mana fixing, while also letting us draw cards with Korvold. And while I don't typically like playing these in upgraded decks, Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse add to that synergy. And like most decks that want to sacrifice, High Market is ideal. Now let's talk about ramp, because there are a lot of unique ways that we could obtain more mana while also sacrificing permanents, synergizing with our commander. Wayfarer's Bauble is a good artifact that sacrifices itself to let us search for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. And Treasure Map, while it isn't quick, it will give us some treasure artifact tokens later on that we can sacrifice and get more card advantage with Korvold. The fact that it does transform into a land that can sacrifice a treasure to draw a card is a huge bonus too. And Ashnod's Altar is a good sack outlet while also giving us some colorless mana. Really important to focus on sacrificing creatures here, seeing as Korvold is usually just a one-time use until you're able to attack. And while it isn't ramp, it's more like mana fixing. Crop rotation will let us sacrifice a land to search up something else. Harrow is also fantastic because you can sacrifice a land, do the same thing, but this time you get to search up 2 basic lands. But more on theme ramp here, we have Pirate's Pillage and Brass's Bounty. Both are going to get you treasure tokens. They're pretty easy to sacrifice, which is good for Korvold later in the game, especially if you have a Brass's Bounty that nets you a ton of tokens. Now let's move on to the creatures. You do want to have a relatively quick start. You want to have a board presence established before you even play Korvold the first time. This means playing good setup creatures like Birds of Paradise, Elves of Deep Shadow, and Dockside Extortionist just to get you that extra mana early on in the game. Dockside Extortionist has the benefit of being good late game as well, netting you a bunch of tokens that you can then sacrifice. Sakura Tribe Elder is good in just about any green deck, sacrificing itself, synergizing with Korvold that way. Spring Bloom Druid, early game or late game, it still allows you to sacrifice a land so that you can then get 2 basic lands. It's basically Harrow on ETB. Pitiless Plunderer is another way that we can get more of those treasure artifact tokens. They're really good tokens in this deck if you haven't noticed already. And it's whenever another creature you control dies, so it could be a token creature as well. And a few really awesome setup creatures that are just going to give us creature tokens. They're going to replenish Ophiomancer, Pawn of Ulamog, and Sifter of Skulls. You just need these creature tokens. You need things to sacrifice because you could run out of a board presence, and Korvold really needs you to sacrifice other permanents. Ophiomancer is just really cool cool. It is kind of expensive, but that's mostly because it hasn't been reprinted yet. It is a $15 card, but it's well worth it if you can keep getting a 1/1 black snake creature token with Death Touch. Another fun thing to play with is reassembling Skeleton. Pay 2 mana and return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. If you have nothing better to do with 2 mana, you might as well do it. And probably what I would consider the best setup creature for Korvold is Undrixar Master Breeder, because whenever you cast a creature spell, you're going to get that many black thrall creature tokens equal to its converted mana cost. So Korvold being 5 means you're going to get 5 thralls before he even enters the battlefield, which means if all you have is Undrixar and you don't feel comfortable sacrificing anything else, you will get the thralls before you even have to sacrifice. So a very good interaction there. And we have plenty of ways to keep adding to our creature count with Mycoloth and Tendershoot Dryad, just getting more of those Saproling tokens. We don't want to have to think too hard about what we want to sacrifice. Dragon Lair Spider's a really cheap, easy way to get more creature tokens. And Avenger of Zendikar has one of the best ETBs when it comes to token production, getting a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land we control. And it would be kind of a flavor fail if I didn't play Prosh Skyraider of Care, a sack outlet on a creature that also gives you 6 creature tokens. Not as powerful as if Prosh were the commander, but still value I cannot ignore in this deck. There's also a Mitotic Slime in here because when it dies you create 2 2/2 green ooze creature tokens with whenever this creature dies, create 2 1/1 green ooze creature tokens. So tokens that die that give you more tokens are pretty sweet. You just want to be worry free, you don't want to sacrifice something that's valuable. Now we have a lot of things that are going to die. We want to take advantage of that in any way possible, but first we need to go over some important sack outlets. Goblin Welder and Sylvan Safekeeper are really cheap and awesome ways that we can sacrifice other permanents, and also fools around with a sub-theme. You can either play with lands in this deck or artifacts, because there are a lot of good artifact synergies that deal with sacrificing, and I'm sure by now you've probably seen the Gitrog monster. There are a lot of ways you can sacrifice lands. Another good flavor win for the deck is playing Shattergang Brothers, because you have the option of sacrificing a creature, an artifact, or an enchantment by paying 3 mana for each of those abilities, but you're also forcing each other player to do the same. So if you do have something like Mazarek out there, you should get a bunch of +1/+1 counters on all of your creatures. Other really solid sack outlets that are staples, Viscera Seer and Goblin Bombardment. The cheaper the sack outlet, the better it's going to be for your deck, while also giving you some pretty good abilities. Now a lot of those creatures are going to be dying, we just want to get even more value off of it. We have creatures like Mayhem Devil. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, deal 1 damage to any target. Really good way that we can pile on the damage. The new Sir Conrad the Grim is a fantastic card for any black deck now. This deck is going to do nothing but kill creatures. Since Sir Conrad does not specify non-token, you're going to be dealing a ton of damage to your opponents. We have Journey to Eternity, which is a really cool way to profit off of Korvold. Just throw this onto a good ETB creature, like an Avenger of Zendikar, so that when you sacrifice it, you can then have it return. Journey to Eternity is going to flip into Atzal Cave of Eternity, and be a way that we can return those same value creatures back from our graveyard to the battlefield. Ulvenwald Mysteries is an incredibly underrated card that helps replenish our permanent count. Whenever a non-token creature we control dies, we investigate, and whenever we sack that clue, we put a 1/1 white human creature token onto the battlefield. So one permanent leads into another, which leads into another. Very good if we can keep that count the same. We want to at least break even with our permanent count. There is Moldervine Reclamation, which is perfect for this deck, whether we're sacrificing tokens or non-tokens. Whenever our creatures die, we're going to gain a life and draw a card, which is perfect because then we're drawing even more cards with Korvold. And Revel in Riches is a win con, yes, but it's mostly in here to give us those tokens. I think there are a few good Planeswalker options for this deck. The Ready Ingenious Iconoclast is awesome for those artifact synergies, giving you a way to sacrifice an artifact to destroy an artifact or a creature. It just helps you if you want to go in that direction, which is what I really like about Korvold. It's not a very linear commander. We have Vraska Golgari Queen if you want to continue sacrificing, while also giving you some decent removal on the minus. And Liliana Dreadhorde General, because by now you've probably realized a lot of creatures are going to die. Let's just keep drawing more cards. And her minus is even more valuable because you're going to be drawing even more cards with Korvold. So overall, guys, that's the deck. It's pretty cool, pretty quick. In a similar sense, we have another engine in Jund. Prosh Skyraider of Care was one of my favorites because you could go in so many different directions, and it looks like this time it's all about permanent sacrificing. Whether you want that to be lands, artifacts, or creatures, or a combination of the 3, Korvold should be a fun commander for a long time. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think about them. Let me know what you think about Throne of Eldrane. As of the making of this video, this set is not officially out yet, so I will try to update this deck if we have a better understanding of the cards. But you guys have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.